Okay, we are back on the record on 21 CR 6643. It is still the state of Ohio's case, so Prosecutor Barnett, call your next witness. Need some water?
No, I'm good, thank you.
You're okay? Okay.
I think I'm good.
Okay, if you need some water, let us know.
Okay.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated.
He can. Major Graham, you can take the mask off as you testify. Go ahead, Mr. Barnett.
Thank you. For the record, sir, would you tell us the name and address of your employer, please?
Major Calvin Graham, Carroll County Sheriff's Office, 43 2nd Street, Southeast Carroll, Ohio.
And by whom are you employed?
Carroll County Sheriff.
And what do you do?
I'm a detective, investigate cases,
Okay. How long have you been at the Sheriff's Department?
27 years.
Okay. Have you worked at any other Sheriff's Departments?
No.
What are you, you said you investigate cases. Have you received any training experience in investigations?
I have had Reed course and also Southern Police Institute homicide investigation course.
Okay. And so are you certified in the state of Ohio as a law enforcement officer?
Yes.
And you received the requisite training to obtain that certification?
Yes.
Do you receive the requisite continuing training to maintain that certification?
Yes. Maintain continuing professional education.
Okay, and you indicated you've had some, is your current certification in good standing with the state of Ohio?
Yes.
Okay, and you indicated that you've had specialized trainings in specialized school. Would you elaborate further what those trainings were and whether you received a certification or?
1998, I had a course at out in for metallurgical death investigator course in St. Louis, Missouri. The Reed course I had down in I believe Montgomery County or Greene County, one of the two, for the Reed interview and interrogation course. And the second course, or the other course I had in death investigation was a homicide school at Louisville, Kentucky. That was in, I'm not sure what year exactly, 3 or 4 years ago.
Get a little closer to the microphone.
Sure.
So when you mentioned the Reed investigation, what is that?
That's interviewing techniques to find deception, and also how to interview people and tell whether they're deceiving you or whether they're truthful.
Okay, and is that a common training that investigators take in your field?
Yes.
Okay, and were you able to, did you have to take a test and receive a certificate?
No, it was a 2-day course, and there was no test in the course. Just it's more of a seminar type course for that.
Okay, so is it a requirement to be able to investigate cases?
No,
Okay, so it's something that you did to help you, in other words?
that's correct.
Okay. With regards to the other courses, same thing. Are they required?
No, they're not.
Okay, did you obtain certifications or certificates, take a test to complete those?
Returned, there was a test out at St. Louis. That was, at that point in time, I was helping the county coroner do investigations under Dr. Bissell. And there was a test at the end of that course.
Okay. With regards to, how long have you investigated cases? Have you done that for all your years at the Sheriff's Department? or
No, I worked road patrol, and starting out, I worked dispatch, I worked the jail. So I've worked pretty much about all the jobs at the sheriff's office from start to now.
Okay. And how long have you investigated cases?
I investigated cases like from 1995 to around 2000. Then I went back to road patrol, and then I come back to investigations, I believe, in 2011.
Can you give us examples of what types of cases you've investigated over the course of that time frame?
Everything, pretty much generally, we see a lot of like burglary cases. We see some death cases, traffic crashes, and we don't see a lot of homicide here or murder, so, but I have investigated those.
Okay. And when you say you've investigated them, have you been a primary investigator or assisting others, or both?
Both.
Okay. Okay. Were you working for the Carroll County Sheriff's Department on May 3rd, 2021?
I was off, and the sheriff notified me at home. We had a reported shooting incident, and I responded from my home. I was off duty, but was called back out.
Okay. And so is that common in your employment with the Sheriff's Department to be off duty and have to come on duty?
Yes.
Okay. And so you were alerted by someone else of an incident, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Do you know where the incident was or where you were told to respond to?
I was responded to Mechanicstown to Apollo Road address that dispatch had given me. I don't recall the numerics of it, but from years working the county, I knew where I needed to be.
Okay. So you indicated it was Apollo Road?
I believe that's where it was.
Okay. And so you're familiar with the county, and so you didn't need directions?
No,
Okay. So, and you don't remember the numerics of where you went?
no.
Okay. But where were you when you received the call? You were at home?
I was at home.
Okay. And did you respond right away, or did it take you some amount of time?
No, I responded right away. I got back in uniform. I hadn't been home that long. And I was called at 5:08 by the sheriff, and probably within 10 minutes I was back out and headed that way.
Okay. And so you responded to the location where you were told to go?
That's correct.
Okay. And do you remember about how long it took you to get there?
I'd say probably 20 minutes roughly. Is what I'm guessing.
Okay. And so you were from home, so you don't live near Fox Township?
No, I live over on the western part of the county,
Okay.
southwestern part.
Did you respond lights and siren?
I did.
Okay. And so when you arrived at the address, I guess, first of all, was that address located in Carroll County?
Yes.
What did you observe when you got there?
When I arrived, Deputy Licht was on scene, and Deputy Martin. And there was somebody lying in the yard with a white sheet over him, and the EMS was on scene.
Okay. And was there anybody else on scene?
No, not at that time.
Okay. And so what did you do first when you got there?
I got there, I talked to Deputy Licht and Deputy Martin, learned that Audrey Branch was in the back of the ambulance, and so I looked at the body, and at that point in time I went over to check on Audrey.
Okay. Tell us about looking at the body. Why did you do that?
They had attempted to do some resuscitation, and Deputy Licht did, and Deputy Martin, just for my own curiosity, before I went and talked to her to see what maybe transpired. Dispatch had told me that they'd received a call of a domestic, and that she'd shot and he was laying outside.
Okay, and was there a body outside?
There was,
Did it appear to be male or female?
male.
Okay, and was it consistent with what you learned in the radio broadcast or what you learned before you arrived?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see anything else remarkable around the body when you were there?
No, I didn't, because I did not move the body or disturb the body at that point in time. There was no need to.
Is that standard, not to remove a body if you don't have to?
Not until the coroners arrived.
Okay. Was the coroner contacted?
He was.
Did you contact the coroner or did somebody else?
No, I believe dispatch did.
And is that part of protocol?
That's our protocol, is we,
Okay. And so, did you learn who was laying on the ground?
from Deputy Licht, and then that was Matthew Mott.
Okay. And then did you learn who else was involved?
Audrey Branch,
Okay. And is Audrey Branch in court today?
yes,
Would you point her out, please?
sitting over here.
Let the record reflect that Major Graham pointed at the defendant.
When you were at the body, did you observe any firearms around the body?
No,
Did you observe any type of instrument, device, baseball bat, anything that could be used as a weapon?
no,
Was there anything laying around the body?
no.
After you observed the body, what did you do next?
I believe I went over, if I recall, I went to the back of the ambulance to check on Audrey, and I noticed that she was in handcuffs, so I removed her handcuffs so they could treat her. And I believe somebody was holding the phone up to her so she could talk to someone. I believe it may have been her mother, but I'm not positive.
Okay. So, did you observe any injuries, or what was being treated, if
She
anything?
had a little bit of blood on her forehead and had a little bit of a cut that I noticed. It's what stands out to me. Other than that, I didn't see a whole lot of injury.
Okay. At that time, did you say anything to her?
I don't recall saying anything really to her or asking her any questions at that point in time. I let medical treat her and do what needed to be done.
Okay. Did she ask anything of you?
No.
Okay. And what did you observe the medics doing, if anything?
At that point in time, they really wasn't doing a whole lot. We're trying to figure out whether she wanted to go to the hospital to get treated or what. And then at some point in time, she decided to go to the hospital.
Okay. Did she voice that to you or somebody else?
She voiced it to the squad personnel.
Okay. And were you present when she voiced it?
I was back and forth between the sheriff and the squad because at one point in time she was going to go by ambulance and then she wasn't going. And then I believe I was back over talking to the sheriff whenever they said that she wanted to be transported.
Okay. And so what did you do next then, when you found that out?
So I made arrangements. Once they were ready to leave, I was going to follow the ambulance to the hospital and be with her so that I could see what injuries she had. And whenever she was finished at the hospital, come back to the sheriff's office for an interview.
Okay. Is that common practice for an officer to go to a hospital if someone is going to a hospital from a scene like that?
Yes.
Okay. About how long were you on the scene before that went down that the ambulance decided to leave?
I'm just guessing maybe half hour, 45 minutes, maybe close to an hour.
Okay. Did you go in the ambulance?
No, I followed behind in the sheriff car.
Okay. In the interim, before the ambulance departed with the defendant, did you do anything else in the course of your investigation at the scene?
Deputy Stoffer showed up, or Investigator Stoffer showed up, and I spoke to you, and I spoke to the sheriff. I made some phone calls to BCI and talked to the agent that was responding.
Okay. What's BCI?
It's the Bureau of Criminal Investigations at the state of Ohio that they have all the technology and all the crime scene forensic equipment that we don't have as a small agency. So they gather the evidence.
And is it customary in any criminal case to involve BCI for collection of evidence or to assist in the collection of evidence?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Would it be common in a case like this to request BCI to assist in collection of evidence?
Yes,
Okay. Are you trained in crime scene collection of evidence?
I am, but we don't have the stuff to collect it, and it has to go to the BCI lab anyways.
That was the next question. Do you have the facilities to make analysis?
No,
Okay. So does BCI, the Bureau of Criminal Investigation, do they have the facilities to do laboratory analysis if it's needed?
yes, they do.
Okay. At that point in time, at that moment when you made that call, did you have any idea of what specifically you were going to need in terms of collection of evidence?
Told them what we had and what the scenario was. It also was appearing that we were going to have a rainstorm. So then the agent called back and wanted to know if we would set a tent up or cover the body so that when they arrived that, they would have it dry, seeing the work.
And how does, you make a phone call to BCI, but is there a certain person or who responds?
I talked to Investigator Hoopman from BCI. He was on call that they're dispatched. He was fairly close to Carroll County, so he'd reached out to me, and then we had phone conversation back and forth on what he would like for us to do before he arrived.
Okay, so a BCI investigator is not on staff at the Sheriff's Department?
No,
Okay. It would be somebody like you that has to respond perhaps from some other location and take some time to get there?
that's correct.
Okay, and so, were you given an approximation of an ETA or a time of arrival when a BCI official would be there?
No, he was coming from the New Philadelphia area, and then I'm not sure where the other agent was coming from. So it would take them an hour or a little more to get to that location.
Okay, and so were you present when BCI arrived?
No, I wasn't. I was en route to the hospital.
Okay, so you left the scene?
Yes,
Okay, and I believe your testimony was you followed the ambulance, correct?
that's correct.
Okay, and where did you go?
We went to Mercy Hospital in Canton.
Okay, and did the ambulance respond lights and siren?
No,
Did you respond lights and siren?
no, I didn't.
Okay. And so what happened when you arrived at Mercy Hospital? What did you observe?
We got to the emergency room, and they went in, took Audrey back to her room. I was glad to go back to the room, and they did some triage and assessment. Then whenever she was treated, I stepped out of the room.
Okay. About how long were you there?
2-3 hours.
Okay. Were they treating Audrey Branch that full 2 hours?
They were doing several things. They were doing some forensic assessments that was done by a specialized nurse for victims.
Okay. Were you present for that, or was that one of the
I
procedures?
was standing outside. I wasn't permitted to be in the room.
When they first brought Audrey Branch in, was there emergency trauma team waiting for her?
No.
Where did they take her into?
They took her back to back to a room in the ER at Mercy.
Okay. To your appearance, to what you observed, was there any trauma that required an emergency procedure at that point when you arrived?
No, there wasn't.
Okay. When you entered, did you have the occasion then to view any her physical appearance or any injuries that we were made aware of?
I observed some bruising toward the end of it on the back side of her, I believe it was her left arm, and she had a mark on her head with a little bit of blood and a superficial wound.
Okay. Appear to have any broken bones?
No.
Appear to be in pain or agony?
I think she was complaining of a headache, and if I recall right.
How would you describe her demeanor when you were first there?
She was quiet. She talked, but she was quiet.
Okay. Appear to be disoriented?
No,
Did she lose consciousness at any time when you were there?
she didn't in my presence. She never lost any consciousness.
Okay. Was she hooked up to any machines while you were there?
I don't believe so.
Okay. At your time at the scene, before you arrived at the hospital, did any of those types of things happen? Were there any machines hooked up? Were there any IVs?
I never seen no IVs or, no EKGs or anything like that back to the ambulance, but
Okay.
She had been in there prior to my arrival too.
Sure. Did the defendant, while you were there, were you made aware of any testing that she was given? So in other words, did a doctor order up any tests or any x-rays or things like that?
Honestly, I don't recall whether they did any x-rays or not. I know she had a forensic nurse that was in there. I'm not sure what all they collected and what they've done at that point in time.
Sure, okay. You said you were there about 2 hours?
2 to 3 hours roughly.
Okay. Was a doctor or a nurse with her the whole time during that 2 hours?
No. There was a period of time where it was her and I standing in the, I was standing in the room while she was lying on her bed, but that might have been 45 minutes to an hour that time.
Okay. So did you have to hurry up and wait, basically at everybody else's mercy at the hospital?
Pretty much.
Okay. During the time that you were with her, again, did you notice any other injuries other than what you alluded to at the scene?
No, I never seen any others, but she was still clothed.
Okay. Were you made aware of any broken bones or bleeding or concussions or breathing difficulties?
No.
Did you notice if the defendant was missing any teeth?
No.
Okay. Did she appear to be alert?
She did.
Okay. Did she cooperate with the hospital staff?
She did.
Okay. And was she admitted to the hospital?
No, she was not.
Okay. So what precipitated or what happened when there was, or I guess the first question is, was she discharged?
Once she was discharged, then I transported her back to the sheriff's office, and at that point in time, myself and investigator Stoffer, we went to our interview room, and she was advised of her Miranda rights and asked to give a statement of what occurred.
Sure. During the trip back from Mercy Hospital to Carrollton, about how long did it take?
Half hour, 45 minutes.
Okay. Common driving time from Canton to Carrollton?
That's correct.
Okay. Did you talk in the vehicle about anything?
We talked, but I instructed her that while in the vehicle, it would just be normal talk, that I would not question her in the vehicle. I did have a body camera, and I did have it activated, so it was just normal day-to-day talk, and it wasn't a lot of talking.
Okay. So it wasn't about the investigation
No.
or the case or anything about details?
No.
Generic conversation?
Yes,
How's the weather or something along those lines?
that's correct.
Okay. So you arrived at the sheriff's department, and there was another deputy with you that came to an interview room?
To the interview room was Investigator Stoffer, who is also, he's commissioned through the sheriff's office, but he investigates cases and follows up for the prosecutor and children's services stuff.
Okay. But he is a deputy sheriff?
That's correct.
Okay. And so he assisted in your investigation and assisted in this
That's
case?
correct.
Is that correct? Okay. And so you indicated that the purpose to bring Audrey Branch back to the sheriff's department was for an interview, correct?
That's correct. The first priority was to take her to the hospital where she wanted to go and see if she had any injuries or to get her treated if she needed treatment and document those. So the purpose for the interview was to see what happened rather than what from when she called in and told us what happened on the phone and requested the squad.
And is that a common practice or proper procedure to attempt to interview someone about what happened,
Yes,
even if they're a suspect?
yes.
Okay, and was she a suspect in the shooting?
She admitted when she called in, so I wanted to see what her story was.
Sure. And so prior to having conversations or you indicated that she was Mirandized, correct?
Yes.
And what does being Mirandized entail?
It entails what her rights are, that she doesn't have to talk to us. And so basically, in a nutshell, that's what it is. If she wanted to give us a statement, it was voluntary and not forced. That's her right not to.
So the Miranda is a constitutional requirement of somebody who's in custody and not free to leave to be advised of what their constitutional rights are before they make a statement, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and what are those constitutional rights that you or other deputies go over with someone before they are asked any questions?
Now you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. You have the right to answer questions, and you also have the right to stop answering at any time until you talk to an attorney.
Okay. And did you do that in this case before you asked any questions when you were in the interview room? You
Yes.
or Deputy Stauffer?
Yes,
Do you go over those rights in writing?
we do.
Okay, and did you do it that night?
Yes.
Major General, my hand has been marked for purpose of identification, states exhibit number 3. Would you take a moment and look at that and tell the jury what that is?
Yes, this is our constitutional rights and waiver form that we use at the Sheriff's Office. It's a common form that we have.
Okay, and have you seen that document before?
Yes,
And what specifically is it, and who's it for?
it's for Arbor Branch.
And it outlines what those constitutional rights are that you just testified to, correct?
It does.
And it is an acknowledgement of those rights and an agreement to speak and provide information to you, is that correct?
That's correct.
Is that waiver signed by anybody?
It's signed by Arbor Branch.
Okay, did you see her sign that?
I did.
Okay, and it was witnessed by someone else?
Deputy Stauffer.
And Deputy Stauffer was also in the room at the time?
That's correct.
Okay, and so that is the waiver that was secured from the defendant that's seated in court, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and that was done before you asked any questions about what happened.
That's correct.
Was there any indication to you in going, that you observed in going over those rights with the defendant that she didn't understand them?
No, there was no indication that she didn't understand.
Did she have the opportunity to ask any questions?
She did.
Did she ask any questions about her rights?
I don't recall her asking any questions about her rights or.
Did she voluntarily sign that document?
She did.
Okay, did she agree to talk to you?
She did.
Did she appear to understand what her rights were and that she understood what was being told of her?
She appeared to understand her rights.
Okay, and so did you then participate in an interview then?
I did, and we record our interviews, so it's audio and video recorded in the interview room.
Okay. And before you started the interview, could you describe the defendant's physical appearance? Did you have the occasion to see her?
Yeah, I mean, she was just kind of quiet, and I think she was tired, and her appearance, I mean, that's the first time I ever met her, so she seemed normal.
Okay. Do you recall what she was wearing, if anything?
They changed her out at the hospital to some different, like a hospital type pant, and we collected those clothing that she had as part of that forensic interview or assessment that the hospital does. So I don't recall exactly what the clothing was that she had. It was like a sweatpant type shirt that she had on.
Okay. Was she wearing a mask?
Yes.
Okay, and was it a face mask, COVID related?
Yes.
Okay, had she been wearing the mask before?
She didn't wear it at the hospital, but she did wear it in the car on the way down and in the interview room.
Okay. And so she had it on in the interview room while you talked to her?
Yes.
Okay. And did she say if she wanted to wear a mask?
She wanted to.
Okay. Did she say why?
No.
Okay. Did you at that time have the occasion to observe any other injuries at that time?
No, I don't recall of any.
Okay. Did you look at her face?
She had the same, the injuries that I've seen earlier on her forehead and
Okay.
such.
So, and that consisted of what?
She had if I recall, it was a place on her forehead that was like, it was like a cut or injury that had been bleeding and was treated at the hospital.
Okay. Did they bandage it?
I don't remember exactly.
Okay. So you don't remember she had a band. Okay. Was her neck immobilized in any way, like with a C-collar or some type of device? No. Okay. Okay. So, do you know about what time the interview started?
It was after 11 when we got back, and I think maybe 11:30 or so.
In the PM?
Yes.
Okay. And so what, if anything, did you recall that the defendant told you?
I don't remember the exact details of what she said, other than he had shoved her down, and he left. She thought he was going out to his truck to retrieve a firearm, and she retrieved her rifle from under the bed, I believe, and the magazine to the rifle was in the closet. She retrieved it and loaded the gun. She thought he was coming back with the handgun that he kept in his truck.
Okay. Did you find any handgun at the scene near the body when you
No.
were there? Okay. And did you and another deputy, Deputy Stauffer, conducted the interview, correct?
Yes.
Were you the primary asking questions, or was Deputy Stauffer?
I let Deputy Stauffer, because he was at the crime scene, and so he knew more than I did from the search warrant and being with BCI.
Okay, fair enough. And so is that common practice, that there's somebody that takes the lead in questioning who may know more?
Yes.
Okay, so was your primary duty then to ask questions or to assist?
Assist.
Okay, and so would any specifics and questions would have been the responsibility of Deputy Stauffer?
That's correct.
Okay. Was there anything remarkable that the defendant told you that during the course of that interview that jumped out at you, that caused you to weigh in or ask any questions?
No. I think there was nothing that really stands out, but at one point in time, I think I did ask her about the ammunition being stored separate from the gun, and her having to retrieve that, but
Okay. Do you recall specifically what question you asked about it?
no, I don't.
Okay. Do you recall a response?
No, I don't.
Okay. About how long did that interview take?
It wasn't all that long of an interview, maybe a half hour.
Okay. Did the defendant admit she shot Matthew Michael Mott?
She did, and the one question I do recall that was asked is how many times she'd fired the weapon, and she said one time.
Okay. And did she identify what type of rifle?
AR-15.
Okay. Had you been aware of that was the type of weapon involved?
Yeah, from the beginning, that she never said anything different than that.
Okay. All right. I have no other questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, Major Graham. I want to talk to you about 3 different things, and then I'll be done, okay? First thing I want to talk to you about is the interview that you did with Audrey. The next thing I want to talk to you about is her injuries. And the last thing is your own experience in use of force, okay? Fair?
Sure.
Okay. First, you testified, you interviewed, along with Mr. Stoffer, you interviewed Audrey,
Yes.
and this was all on video and audio.
Yes.
Okay. And so when you've been up here testifying, you've been having to try to recall bits and pieces of this, correct?
That's correct.
All right. That recording, that video and audio recording, the government has this, yes?
Yes.
Okay, it's still available. Jury could listen and watch it.
Yes.
Right, you wouldn't have to just simply rely on what you're trying to remember.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Next, Audrey's injuries. She wasn't taken out of there in a wheelchair,
No.
not in a coma,
No.
had all her teeth.
Yes.
She did have injuries, correct?
Yes.
All right. Thank God it wasn't worse.
Excuse me.
So thank God it wasn't worse, correct?
Right.
Excuse the noise, I believe that's the radiators. The age of the building, that's what happens sometimes in the winter. So,
Radiators, bearings.
yeah, it's the way it is, so. Just have to work with it.
Okay, but she did have injuries.
She did have injuries.
Okay, to her head.
Yes.
It would be consistent with having been struck in her head.
I don't know how that occurred, but yeah, she had an injury on her forehead.
She told you she was struck in her head?
She knocked to the floor and her head was pushed into the drywall or into the wall inside the house in the bedroom.
But there was a hole in the wall where her head went through.
I wasn't in the house till after, days later. There was a hole in the drywall, maybe 6 inches, 8 inches up off the floor
Okay.
in the bedroom.
Which would be consistent with a head injury.
It's consistent with her statement.
Okay. And if somebody manipulated my head through a wall, is it fair to say I probably would have marks on my head?
Yeah, it would be consistent that you would have some type of injury.
Similarly, if somebody was punching me in my face or my head, I would have marks on my head?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You also acknowledged she had a pretty good-sized bruise on her arm, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and it was in the back of her arm, right?
It was on the back side of the arm.
Okay. And she gave 2 different statements to you, right, on audio and video?
In the interview room, are you?
2 different occasions?
Yeah.
Okay. And both times, she told you that she had her arms up protecting herself, correct?
I don't recall that, to be honest with you.
But that's on video, right? Okay. You're a major, you've been around for a while, correct?
Yes.
All right. Do you train other officers?
No, I don't.
Okay. What type of training do you have in the use of force?
In relationship to law enforcement,
Yes.
you can only use the amount of force that's necessary or equal to resolve whatever's coming at you.
Okay. And you're familiar with responding to domestic violence situations, correct?
Yes,
All right. These are potentially dangerous situations for the officers,
they
correct?
are,
Okay. More than a typical call.
a lot of times.
Okay. When somebody gets physical with an officer, it's more dangerous than maybe just me and Steve getting into it in a fist fight, correct?
I'm not sure I follow you.
An officer brings a gun to every fight, correct?
Yes,
All right. That makes it more dangerous, doesn't it?
it does.
It's no longer just a fist fight.
Well, only if somebody tries to disarm us.
Okay, thank you. So if an officer were to get into a physical altercation with somebody else, your officer has a firearm on them, correct?
That's correct.
What happens if that firearm is taken from them?
If it's taken from you, or from the officer,
From the officer.
it's probably gonna get shot with it.
Thank you.
Just one second.
You were asked a couple questions about the defendant's injuries and it being on video. Your interview was videoed, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and so that's what's recorded.
Yes,
Okay, but you also observe things. You don't rely on the video
That's correct.
as a playback. You also have your observations, is
that's
that correct?
correct.
I have no other questions.
Defense? Okay, Major Graham, thank you. You may step down. Okay, State of Ohio, it is 3:15, and I know we had the discussion during the break about witnesses today. Do you have any other available today that you would like to present?
We don't, Your Honor, due to scheduling. With this morning, we weren't in a position to know how long this morning's session would go, so everything else is scheduled for
Okay.
tomorrow. That's okay with the court.
Right.
And jury, just so you know, we're moving along a little faster than anticipated, so we're actually through all the scheduled witnesses for today, which means we are going to take a break for the day at this point. And we're going to come back tomorrow morning, and we're going to be ready to go in your seats and ready to go at 8:30. Now, this morning, we started late, and that's because there were about 12 people that we summoned out that didn't appear, prospective jury members, and so I waited a little while. We got started later than normal. So if you could be here on time tomorrow morning, we'll start right on time, and we'll be ready to go tomorrow morning. I do need you to remember everything I instructed you on as far as being at recess and talking about the case. You can't talk about it with friends, with family members. You still can't talk about the case in between even yourselves. And so please take that seriously. Also, all the instructions concerning media and looking up details of the case, or even just general research of the case, or maybe it has nothing specifically to do with the case, but evidence issues, things like that. You can't research them while you're out on a break. At this point, State, do you have any issues or any motions you'd like to address? No, sir. Anything from the defense? No, okay, very good. Then here's what we're going to do. We are at a recess for today. We'll be back at 8:30 in the morning. So jury, thank you. You are released for the day.